In his bathrobe, the signature bathrobe and pipe. He was an uptight kid from Indiana who just made a fortune with this thing. Who knew? Anyway, I talk about sales. Now TV, the 50s are called the golden age of television. Remember some of the shows back in the 50s?
Every show I remember.
Uncle Milty. Well, I have a timeline.
Jackie
Gleason, the Honeymooners. I have a post-war 1950s timeline, so you probably remember some of these shows. Howdy Doody.
Oh, I love Howdy Doody. When I was a kid, because I'm older than you. So I was a little kid. And I loved Howdy Doody. I had a puppet with Maribel or something.
Clarabelle. And who was the MC on the Howdy Doody show? Buffalo Bob Smith. And a bunch of marionettes. By the way, in 1947, when Howdy Doody got started, Meet the Press got started. Meet the Press is the longest running TV program in worldwide broadcasting history. Now in 1948, Milton Berle, the host of the Texaco Star Theater, known as Uncle Milty.
Can I say something?
Good for him.
I don't know if you wrote about that and how everybody in the neighborhood would go to the first people's house to watch the show.
Tuesday night.
That's Tuesday night. I didn't write about that, but I did write about the fact when Uncle Milty was on, during the commercials, they'd all go to the bathroom. And what would happen is the water pressure would drop in the neighborhood because everybody did the toilet at the same time. So it was just, he owned Tuesday night.
Yeah, the little kids were all sitting, I was in the front, you know, and then the adults would sit in the back. They had that little 8-inch television.
Right. And you could, on a console, you'd open it up,
right.
Shut it. TV trays, you'd watch TV with the dinner on the TV tray. Yeah. The Ed Sullivan Show started in 1948. 1949 Emmy Awards are presented, broadcast on TV. And Hopalong Cassidy becomes the first network Western series. It was a great show. 1950, What's My Line? Remember that? Dorothy Kilgallen, Bennett Cerf, etc.
I went to see it.
Was it?
I went to see the show.
You were in the audience. Good for you. TV Guide selects in 1950 Lucky Strike's popular Be Happy Go Lucky spot as commercial of the year. In this spot, college cheerleaders sing, "Yes, Luckies get our loudest cheers on campus and on dates. With college gals on college guys, a lucky really rates." Yeah. By the way, the smoking's gone down now. Although crazy on college campuses, I see kids are still smoking.
What about your show of shows?
I don't, but
And Sam Levinson?
Sam Levinson, my name, but he spells it differently.
Oh, he was good.
Sam Levinson was a school teacher.
Yeah, right.
1951, I Love Lucy. A half-hour sitcom starring Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz is born. The show's sponsor, Philip Morris, worries that people won't be interested in a program featuring a real-life husband and wife. But people are very interested. I Love Lucy ranks first in the nation for 4 of its first 6 seasons as the most popular TV show in the 1950s. They took a shot. 1952, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. I've Got a Secret in Dragnet. Remember the music? Dun, 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 dun. Right. 1953, The Tonight Show began as a local New York TV variety show, which was interesting. 1954, the Army McCarthy hearings were broadcast on TV. Miss America started. 1955, Gunsmoke began 20 years. The $64,000 question was launched on CBS, igniting a U.S. game show craze. The Mickey Mouse Club. And what would the kids call on the Mickey Mouse Club? Mouseketeers. The Honeymooners started in 55. 56, you had Chet Huntley and David Brinkley with the Huntley-Brinkley Report. Black and white portable TV sets came on board. 1957, Ed Sullivan made his final appearance on, Elvis made his final appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show. There was a big brouhaha because Ed Sullivan was worried that Elvis swinged his hips, it would be in bad form. He didn't want to book Elvis on the show. But what happened is Steve Allen booked Elvis a few months earlier and got great ratings. And Elvis was going to be booked on lots of shows. So Ed Sullivan decided, well, we can't beat him, join him. so he booked Elvis.
But they wouldn't let
They
them
wouldn't let them go below
show.
the waist.
Wouldn't,
Right.
right,
Have
wouldn't,
them
that,
have to show.
right, would not let it go below the waist, which was great for Elvis, because anything you prohibit makes it popular. See, if you show it, no big deal, but if you prohibit it, you're lucky, if you're an artist and get prohibited, guaranteed sales. Also in '58, the scandals involving rigged network quiz shows spread. Remember the scandals back then?
Yeah, 64,000.
Right, and who was the guy who, the contestant?
I remember, I forgot, what was his name?
Van Doren.
Yeah, Van Doren, right.
Carl Van Doren. His father was a very famous
Right.
author and a Columbia University professor who was crushed when his son cheated like that to get the answers. And he was turned in by, there was a movie made of that recently too.
With John Turturro plays
Right.
the guy who turns him in.
Right, Herb Stempel was the actual guy who turned him in. I forget the name of the movie, but it's a terrific movie on that.
The quiz
Quiz show.
Quiz
Quiz show. If you're a Netflix person, get Quiz show. 1959, the Grammy Awards had started. Bonanza.
Wow.
Remember Bonanza?
Yeah.
What was the name of the ranch?
Ponderosa.
Good. And Little Joe Cartwright, etc. So that was TV in the, right?
But there's a million other shows, you left out Ernie
I did.
And there's 1,000 shows, they were all good, the Studio One and all the drama shows.
Now why didn't the drama shows continue?
Well, those were live shows,
They
that's
were,
why.
they were, you literally could watch Broadway shows, I mean, not musicals, I mean dramatic Broadway shows, written just for TV.
Right, big stars.
Big
starting out.
stars, big writers, it was just a culturally enriching place, TV. I mean, like, because in the early '60s, FCC Chairman Newton Minow called TV a vast wasteland. Because what happened is the sponsors wouldn't sponsor those shows anymore. They sponsored the quiz shows, they sponsored the westerns, the variety shows, and so the big Playhouse 90, those programs, they went out of business. They couldn't afford to keep them in business, which is sad. Because you look at like PBS type commercial programming. Yeah, but Ernie Kovacs, you're right. Steve Allen started with the Tonight Show, Jack Parr. And of course, Johnny Carson then replaced Jack Parr. By the way, Jack Parr, I just took out a Jack Parr tape from the library here, so you can watch the old Jack Parr show. Brilliant interviewer.
He was.
You think Johnny Carson was good. Jack Parr is better, I think. And Steve Allen, to me, is the best. Because Steve Allen probably was just, not only was a good interviewer, comedian, musician, terrific piano player, wrote music, wrote books, historian. I mean, Steve Allen could do it all. I mean, it was so sad.
And he had Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet, and she went to Taft High School where I went to.
Oh, did she?
Bronx girl, not Brooklyn.
Well, Hank Greenberg went to James Monroe.
Oh.
And it was my father grew up in the Bronx and played ball with Hank Greenberg in high school.
Yeah.
There's also a good movie about Hank Greenberg,
Yes,
Life
I
and
know,
Times of
yeah.
Hank Greenberg. I can recommend that also.
Very good.
So anyway, so TV was big. Yeah, I didn't mention all the shows. And Superman. Now, what happened to poor Superman? You remember what happened to the actor who played Superman?
He got in a scandal or
He
something,
He
right?
killed himself.
He killed himself. He did.
Suicide.
He
Couldn't
committed
get out of the
suicide.
box.
And when I was a kid, I read about that. I said, how could Superman commit suicide?
He couldn't really fly.
Right, he couldn't really fly. I don't think he jumped out the window.
No.
I think he shot himself. But he wasn't. No, Superman would have survived
Faster
the
than a
bullet.
speeding bullet.
Yeah. By the way, so here's something about Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. Anybody remember that? Oh, great series. Anyway, I'll talk about it. Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. This adventure featured Sergeant William Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police and his lead sled dog Yukon King as they fought rogues and scoundrels of the northern wilderness during the gold rush of the 1890s. Preston's staunch companion, the real star of the show, a four-legged creature who did a lot more work than that biped Preston, was the intrepid Alaskan husky Yukon King, who actually was a large Alaskan Malamute. Typical Sergeant Preston plots involved the pair assisting injured trappers, tracking down smugglers, or saving cabin dwellers from wolverines. In January 1955, Sergeant Preston's sponsor, the Quaker Oats Company, launched a campaign To boost the popularity of their puffed grain cereals, they stuffed 21 million land deeds into 21 million boxes of puffed wheat and puffed rice. Each was for 1 square inch of land in the Yukon. For weeks I gorged myself with puffed wheat and puffed rice, hoping that I could amass enough Yukon real estate to be able to plop down in a chair on it one day. However, I had gathered less than 20 deeds when the advertising campaign ended and the deeds were no longer included in the cereals. Sadly, I don't know what became of my Yukon land deeds, and that's too bad, because while the property went bust, the Canadian government repossessed it in 1965 when Quaker Oats failed to pay $37.20 in taxes on the parcel of land they bought for their promotion. Those certificates have fetched up to $100 a piece on eBay. So if you've kept your land deeds, or you know of anybody that did, they're worth something. Anyway, I talk also about my father and I used to like to watch the Phil Silver show. Remember Sergeant Bilko? Yeah, we used to love to watch that. I also like to watch the Lone Ranger. Who was the Lone Ranger's sidekick? Tonto. And he would say things like, "That's right, Kimosabe."
Yeah.
Him say, "Man, ride over ridge on horse." And I write about, uniquely among TV heroes, the Lone Ranger used silver bullets as calling cards, and as a reminder that life is valuable and dear and not to be thrown randomly away. But that didn't stop him from continually shooting his gun at people. This was clearly a case of cognitive dissonance, or as Tonto might have put it, white man mixed up. And then I talk about the Isle of Lucio, Philip Morris. The cigarette companies would sponsor all these shows.
Right.
And also as part of the deal, the actor on the show, the character, would come out and hype these cigarettes. So,
Can I tell you, when I was in college, the cigarette dealers would drive up, open up their trunk, it would be full of samples.
right,
And take
Oh,
as
they
much as
always
you
gave
want.
samples.
Right.
That's where I started to smoke, just take as much as you want, they were there all the time.
well, would you say they were drug dealers?
Yeah,
Yeah, because let's face it,
That's-
what's the drug in the cigarette that keeps people addicted?
nicotine, right?
So when people say they're hooked on cigarettes, they're telling the truth. Nicotine is an addicting drug. So,
But they let us all to smoke
right,
because it was free.
right, yeah, free is good, it's
I
legally
never liked
addictive.
this. I never smoked.
Well, good for you.
I did, and then
Uh,
My brother did, and he had open heart surgery from it.
Well, people with lung cancer, this
Yeah,
is
he
direct.
started at
causation.
14.
Well,
That's
anyway,
what
we'll,
they did then.
they did, and we all know today smoking is not great. Anyway, I have some pictures in the book. There's the parachute jump, which is still there.
Yeah.
Although
Tommy Island?
Yes.
sans
Yes,
parachute,
all the
no more
time.
parachutes, of course. There's Nixon, who ran for Senate in the 50s, made his big move. He was a McCarthy kind of guy, outing communists back in the 50s.
So did Adlai Stevenson, because I worked very hard for him for all his elections, which he lost both of them.
He did,
In 56, he lost them.
right. The country did not want an intellectual as a president.
All of the
Well, yeah,
Democrat.
well,
Democrat.
back then, yeah.
Right.
Although Eisenhower really could have run as a Democrat,
Right.
but he choked. If Eisenhower would have run as a Democrat, he would have won. But both parties knew that if Eisenhower was going to run as the general who won the war,
Right.
he would become president. So both parties went after him, and he joined the Republican Party because he didn't like the. Robert Taft, who was a Republican, had a bad foreign policy according to Eisenhower. He wanted to make sure that if a Republican won, the foreign policy would be to contain communists. So Eisenhower ran as a Republican and won. And remember, the Eisenhower years are considered peaceful, calm years. Although Eisenhower was part of that desegregation in Arkansas with Little Rock, Arkansas was not a big civil rights guy. Eisenhower was not a big civil rights guy and was pushed into it. But he did the right thing by calling out the troops. Anyway, Korea happened in the 1950s. We've never actually signed a treaty with the North Koreans. So technically